Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful tummy time rug, or it's just a rug to put down for your child to sit on. For yourself, you can put non-slip backing on this and then you can use it for in your bathroom, in your shower, your kitchen, your nursery, anywhere like that. This is not just for making clothes, it's not just for doing baby jackets and hats and scarves. It comes in all different colours, a rainbow of colours. And this yarn is King Cole. It's King Cole's Warm and Toastie, and I am telling you, this is beautiful. It's beautiful and warm. Of different colours. I was trying this one and I thought the lilac and the pink and the white went better. So there is lots and lots and lots of colours in this. There's dark colours, there's blues, there's pastel colours, there's bright colours. It's amazing. This stuff is absolutely amazing. Now, a lot of people don't like using this because a lot of chenille and velvet yarns, what happens to them is this. Look at this. The ends fray like this. So it's quite difficult. A lot of people don't like it because it frays. I'm going to show you how to deal with that. Now let me move this out of the way. I'll tell you a little bit more about this yarn. Take a sharp pair of scissors and snip the end. Now very carefully get a match or a lighter. Now I'll move that out of the way. What you're going to do with the end, you put your light on and just tap your yarn, not the lighter, tap the yarn just against the heat and pull it away. Tap, 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 tap. What you're going to do is you're just going to melt. You're going to melt in that end. Now look at the difference now. It's not fraying now. It's not hard on the end, it's still soft. As long as you don't do it too much all at once, you won't get that hard crust on the end. That's going to seal your end and you won't get all those little fluffy bits. For this size, now I'm going to just take all these out of the way. We'll throw them over there at the back. Now, I did 72 stitches, and I worked across the way, but I did 72 and it's quite big because I wanted mine to, I wanted it to go up and down that way. So out of it, I did 47 rows. I did 47 rows and 74 stitches wide. I started with 2 on that side and 2, I finished with 2, and all I had to do, I'll show you in the video, all I had to do was the border, and I used a half treble crochet in the UK, and if you're in the USA that's a half double crochet for the border on the top and the bottom. I just put 1 into each row along and I did 2 rows. Very, very simple, and it makes this beautiful, beautiful stitch. The half treble crochet or half double crochet is a wonderful stitch for this type of yarn because this is notorious for this, and the velvet ones are notorious for stretching open and you're being left with big gaps. But if you use a half treble crochet, that's a half double crochet, you get a nice even stitch. A nice even stitch, and look at this. It's absolutely beautiful. It feels amazing and it's so soft. So I'm going to show you how to do this. It's really easy, especially for beginners. So again, I'm going to use 1 hook smaller the yarn tells you to use a UK 8mm. That's a USA 11. I'm going to use a 7mm. And I think that's a US 10. Now, I showed you the lilac, how I made the end stop fraying. Because the ends of this, look at this, it just pulls and pulls and pulls out like this. Because it's all wound around this tiny little fibre. So, brush that aside. Snip your end nice and clean. Take the little ends away. Now, and again I'm going to show you how to deal with the end. Get your lighter and your yarn and carefully, very carefully, either use your lighter and just tap, or use your yarn on the lighter, just tap, 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 tap the end. Just tiny little taps of heat. And what it's going to do, it's going to kind of melt that end in. It's all you need to do with this. Make sure it's not boiling hot. It's not hot. And look at that, it's sealed that end in. It's sealed the end in so it's not fraying anymore. So I've already did that lilac, and I'll show you how I did this pattern. It's the stitch I'm going to do is really easy for this. It's great for this yarn. I'll zoom in a little bit. So the stitch is really good for this type of yarn. This fluffy chenille, or there's ones that you get that's velvet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a chain. You can chain as many as you want. For the blanket that I did a chain of 74. So we're just going to do a chain. Don't do it too tight. Give it a little pull up. If you can't do that, you can use a bigger hook to start your chain. So we'll do some of the chain. Now, if you do single rows, all you have to do is pull your yarn up. If you use two colours, you don't even need to cut the end. I cut the end when I got to the 2 rows of lilac. With the white and the pink, I just pulled the edge up. I'll show you that. I just pulled the yarn up. So we'll just do a little sample. So what we're going to do first, you can clearly see where your stitches are. You can feel where the folds are in this as well. Most of these yarns you can see, unless you're using a black or a very dark blue, most of them you can see where your stitch is. You're going to put your yarn over, and we're going to do a UK half treble crochet. That's a USA half double crochet, and go in to the first stitch on the chain. Just go right in, push your hook through, pull your yarn through, and you have got your 3 loops on there. Yarn over and pull through, and give it a little wriggle. So yarn over and in to the next stitch. It doesn't matter if you're only picking up one piece of the stitch, and pull through. A little wriggle. You don't want it to be too tight. So in to the next stitch and work your way down. It's quite a forgiving yarn if you give it a good pull as well. So don't worry too much about having to give it a pull. And through your next stitch and pull through, yarn over, down into your next stitch. You can see that V quite clearly, and you're going in there where that V is. Wrap your yarn and pull through in a little wriggle. Just give it a little wriggle. Stops it all from being too tight and curling in. And as you can see, you don't really see a lot of the patterns with this yarn. I do know that basket weave stitch shows up with this yarn, and this stitch does. Your treble or double crochet does, but there's a lot of the patterns get lost in this fluffiness. Now remember that tight little one that's going to be there on the end. When you've got your 3 loops on your hook, that's when you bring your next colour in. Bring your next colour, just leave that dangling there and pull it through. Now twist your tail around. We're going to work a tail in, or this tail in, on the way back. Just chain 1 and turn, and we're going in to the spaces in between the stitches. We're not going into the top stitch, we're going into the spaces. So I'm going to bring that tail around and hold it down, and I'm going into that very first space, into that very first space, and pull through with my new colour and into the next one. So simple, really, really simple. I'm going to wrap that tail around and hold it down, and that's going to help that tail disappear in. You can sew your ends in if you want. Get some yarn. Just keep wrapping that little tail around until it disappears into your work. And pull through, pull your loop up. You don't want it to be, you don't want the bottom to be slack and the top to be tight. So make sure you pull that stitch up a little bit. And you're going in between the space, in between the stitches. And that's what's going to help keep your stitches compact, and you won't get it all holes when you wash it. It won't all separate out. Pull it up. So I've got my last space there. Going through that space. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to pull a loop and leave it. I'm going to push my hook in that first gap in the corner there, and I'm going to bring this end up. Now when you do your border along the top, you can just pull all that in with it. Now pull it through and make a loop. Make sure it's not too tight. You don't want it too tight on the end. Chain 1, and we're going to go back into that space, into that first space, and do my stitch. Pull your loop up, then go in to the next space. 1 in between each stitch. Go right down in to the space there, and that's going to pull that stitch up and make them look like jagged teeth. So right through the bottom, not through there. You're going through that hole. I'll tuck that end back in. Pull that little end out. So in through there. And through. In the next stitch. And in the next stitch, go right into the bottom of the stitch. Pull that up a little bit so it's not too tight. Right in. You can see your finger through there. Right in the bottom. And that's going to give you that really nice stitch like this. And it doesn't look like a half treble or a half double crochet. It looks like a nice spiked stitch. As long as you give this a little pull so it's not too tight. That's quite a dazzling colour, isn't it? And work your way to the end. So when you get to the end, I'm going to do my stitch. Pull through, pull the loop up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this loop and go through that loop. Like that. Pull that one tighter in. And we're going to leave that yarn down there. We're going to bring this. We're going to bring this yarn up. We'll tighten the loop in. Should be able to tighten it with that end. Keep that one there. We're going to do chain 1 and turn, and we're going to go right in to that first space in there and pull up, yarn over, and then remember and go right in down that in that hole and pull your stitch up a little bit. Don't do it too tight, and work all the way along. And that's how easy this is. When you get to that end, you'll just do the same again. You'll leave a loop. We'll work our way along. I'll go quickly. So when you're at the end, you've got a stitch in there. And pull through. Pull it through. Make a loop and leave the loop there. Now what we're going to do is, we're just going back to this side. Now you can do more than one row if you want to do more than one row. So I'm going in to the corner here, and I'm going to pull this end up. So when you don't have a loop, you're just going to pull it through the corner of a stitch and make your loop like this. Do your chain 1 and then go back into that space, that first space, and pull through. Yarn over and in to the next space and work your way along. And when you end up with a loop at that side and you've got your loop here, you put your yellow loop through there and then work with your purple. I'll just quickly show you that again. So I'm nearly at the end, and that's my loop there. I've got a stitch to go in there. So pull that through, pull my yarn up. So I'm going to pull a loop, and I'm going to thread this one inside that one. Then tighten that yellow one up. Pull my lilac, just pull it in, my hook in, and I've got that one nice and not too tight. Then do a stitch, turn, and then I can work back the way. So that's the way you'll work your rows. If you're doing more than one colour, what you can do is you can just snip it. I'll show you that. We'll use that lilac. You can just cut it off, pull it through that loop. That's going to tighten that in. Then just a little quick heat seal, just in and out like that, just to kind of singe that end like that. And that's going to stop it from fraying. Then you can sew your end in. If that's the easiest way I found if you do more than one row with this. It's not too nice when you're using a yarn and you're going up and you've got this great big loop here. So I'm going to do the border along the bottom. Because we finished this blanket with 2 rows on each side, I'm going to put 2 rows across the bottom like I did on the top. I'll show you what I did when I did it across the top. Now remember, I've done my blanket quite long so that I can have it go up and down in this direction. So this is the way it's going to be on the floor. And this is, because I've used a smaller size hook, the yarn, this toasty yarn tells you to use an 8mm hook, and I've used one size less, and I've got this kind of really stiff matte type of a blanket come out of this. And if you're looking for a weighted blanket for any reason, if you've got jittery legs, this is ideal because the weight in this is quite substantial as well. So for a play mat or a tummy mat, or if you're putting your baby down on its tummy, this is good thick protection as well. And if they fall back, if they are sitting in the fall back, they're going to get a nice soft landing. This is really nice and soft, this, and warm. So with a size 8 crochet hook, it will be much looser for a blanket. But I wanted it for just a little blanket so that when my granddaughter's sitting playing on the floor, she's got something other than the carpet to sit on. Now, if you're going to use this this is really absorbent as well, and if you're going to use it as a mat at your shower or your toilet or anything, I would suggest, or if you're putting this on laminate flooring, then I would suggest putting a non-slip material on one side of it so it doesn't slide around. So I've just put my yarn through the corner and I'm going to make one stitch. So into each row I'm going to put one stitch in each row, and this again I'm going to be using the UK half treble crochet. That's a half double crochet if you're in the USA. I'm going to keep winding this tail around as well, and that way it's going to help take it into my blanket and I won't need to sew it in. So right into the very first one, I'll do my first stitch and pull my loop up a little bit. You don't want your loop too tight, so that's my next row. So I'm just going to push my hook through and do one more stitch. Pull it up a little bit. I'm going to wind the tail around as I work, and that's going to help tie the tail in. So one into the next row, that's the white row. Pull the stitch up a little bit, wind my tail around once more, and then one into the pink row, just in through the end of that pink row. Wrap my tail around again. So one into the next row, all the way down. I finished my second row on this. I finished my second row and I've got a nice edge along the top and the bottom. And you don't even need to sew it in. You can just pull it in with your hook and make this end disappear. Because it's so thick, you can just pull it through some of the stitches and make it disappear inside your work. Just pull your hook through, just pull it through, and then turn and through a couple of stitches and pull it back, just to thread it through to make it disappear underneath these stitches. You can get your hook in. Now if you've got too much, you can just cut it again and then very carefully, got the little end sticking out, very carefully just tap and away, tap and away, tap and away, just to melt those little fibres in so it won't fray. So just tuck that in underneath your yarn, and that helps to stop all that fraying. And that is it. I'm going to move that out of the way. And my hook. So using one hook smaller from an 8 and using a 7 instead of an 8, as it says, you'll get this really, look at that, it keeps its shape. It's brilliant for a mat, absolutely brilliant. I'll come down a little bit. This is great to make, you can make baby clothes with this as well. It's great for making if you use the right size. It's great for making little jackets and hats and scarves for children or for adults as well. Comes in so many colours. You can use this to make beds for your pets. It's going to love it. Your pets love it, and Muttley loves this yarn. It's really nice and soft. It's great for clothing as well, not just for play mats and blankets. Use a bigger hook. Use the size it tells you on the label. It says an 8 in the UK, but I used a 7. I used one size smaller to make it a little bit more substantial and sturdy. And you could use this and make a great big blanket for your bed for the winter as well. Not just for hats and scarves and clothing. You can make this for your bed. It's beautiful. I love it. It's nice and cosy and warm. It was great crocheting it as well. Kept my knees warm. It kept my... There was one time I was even crocheting and actually noticed I'd actually dozed off to sleep with the heat from it. So thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, and if you click on the bell icon, YouTube will tell you when I put up another tutorial. So until the next time, happy crafting, and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.